In this short video on 5 Minutes with Bo Hanson, I'm going to talk about one of the most common issues that I've seen in teams that I've worked with this season, and even within my own basketball team that I coach. One of the big things that we talk about are two factors. One is the style of a team's play, and two are the standards that it wants to live up to. So we've talked a lot in the past about what we call the grip model, the goals, the values, the behaviours that a team is going to aspire to. That comes underneath the goals section. We talk about the roles that each player is going to play on the team, whether it's going to be a technical or a non-technical role. We talk about the I being the interpersonal relationships, and we did a video just recently on social cohesion and how to develop that. And then finally the P for processes and procedures and structure and systems, and how all four of those elements contribute to hopefully creating a high-performing team. We're focusing now specifically on the G part, which is really what are our outcomes for the season, and in particular, what's going to be our identity expressed through our style of play, and then what are our standards that we're going to live up to. And so again, it's our identity and our standards of behavior. And so one of the main issues we see with teams that don't quite get to the level of success that they're hoping for is that it's somewhere along the line, whilst they may have even taken time to establish either their team identity, their style of play, and what they wanted to be referred to by their opposition and internally by themselves, but then their lack of follow-through in regard to establishing either the behaviours that were going to contribute to that outcome, and ultimately whether we're going to live those behaviours on a daily basis. You can take even as a small example, players that turn up late for practice. Do we do anything about that on day one? What about on day two? Maybe it becomes acceptable that they do it on day three. And then suddenly the standard just starts to slowly or even very rapidly decline, simply because we didn't pay attention to it and we didn't address it at the time. Remember, all of these problems around standards are much more easy to address if we address them at the smallest possible level. When we've reviewed teams in the past, from teams that didn't win a championship one year to the next year when they did, and we specifically spoke about the standards that they wanted to live up to, when they've assessed themselves as only being an 8.5 out of 10 and that not being sufficient to win a championship, and yet in the following year when they won and they suggested that we lived our behaviours and our standards to a 9 to a 9.5 out of 10, we're talking sometimes about some very small increments. But the fact is, when we live our standards to the nth degree, which is pretty uncommon, most athletes won't do that, or at least they'll need a lot of encouragement from their coaches and team members to do it. But when we do it, we typically get really phenomenal outcomes. We get the most out of each other and us as a team.